Hello and welcome people, Master Maxify here. As you can see, I'm in a new room. I'm now upstairs in the attic where my brother used to be, and I could scare him from behind because it's really easy to sneak up these stairs and scare him. Today, I have a new series I'm going to be making, because when do I not finish a series and start a new one, right? So about 8 months ago, I unveiled on stream a new concept, the YOLO roulette. Now, what the YOLO roulette is another one of my devious contraptions. I sat down and thought of 40 different YOLO challenges I have or want to do in different video games I like. Here it is, right here. This is what it looks like. Now, what counts as a YOLO challenge here? Well, it's arbitrary for me, but basically, it's just any kind of challenge where the focus is generally the length rather than the level of precision involved. I particularly enjoy long endurance tests in games, and I wanted to do more of them at the time, and I still do, so I came up with this idea. When I made this list, I had already completed 8 of the challenges listed, as I felt it made sense to include them anyway despite them being done. It also just makes me look like I've done more things. But essentially, the idea of this series is me trying a new style of video. All of my videos up till this point have been stream highlights type content, which is very good and fun to make, but it's nice to try different styles sometimes. The sun is currently attacking me. I greatly apologize for that. Specifically around 4 to 5 PM in this house, the sun will shine on my monitor, and it's really annoying. Now, let it be known that the difficulty balance of this list is all over the place. Some of the challenges took me an hour, while others took 35. Regardless, the first challenge in chronological order that I completed on this list is the one I have currently highlighted, the Nigh Acceptance, which is something I did quite a while ago on December 1st of 2018 to be exact. Well, with that, let's get into it. What is the Nigh Acceptance? In the Nigh, there are optional cartridges you can collect in the overworld, and then use to play additional levels where instead of the normal outside look of the game, everything is retro and pixelated. There's 3 variants of these cards. There's the normal ones, the iron cards, and the glitched cards. The regular cards have 10 levels, all with rings scattered around to collect, as well as a limited number of lives. The iron cards have a set number of levels, except you only have 1 life, and if you die, it's back to the beginning, of course. And the glitch cards, these are by far the hardest, however there are no rings and you get infinite lives. Out of these 3 categories, Acceptance is an iron cartridge. There are a total of 5 iron cartridges, those being Denial, Anger, Bargaining, Depression, and of course, Acceptance, which is a reference to the stages of playing Splatterfate. No! The first 4 cards here have their own set number of rooms, usually between 5 and 8, and they range in difficulty. The unique one here is the final card, Acceptance, as Acceptance is by far the hardest of these iron cards, because it requires you to beat all the stages from the other 4 in a row without dying. But not only that, it also has its own unique final stage only accessible by reaching it in the Acceptance card itself. This card requires 32 rooms in a row without dying, meaning it proves a considerable challenge to complete. Since the first 4 cartridges have all of the levels in Acceptance, this is where I began my attempts to complete it. Denial. The first stage of Grief has 8 rooms in total, and with no specific gimmick other than a few moving platforms and spikes, it's really nothing too special. It didn't prove too much of a challenge, considering I first tried the last 3 rooms. And also, as I said myself, back in 2018,
I didn't even think of the jump before doing it, and I got away with it apparently. Okay.
So you don't even need to look where you're going to win, clearly. Either way, Denial was completed in a matter of 10 minutes.
There you go, I did Denial.
The next card up is Anger. This one introduces an enemy which will be alerted whenever you touch the platform that it is standing on, and get zoomies for a few seconds. They are very predictable to avoid and don't pose any real threat, honestly. Secondly, we have these blob-looking dudes who just fly around diagonally. I don't know what they are even doing, but I'm an avoidance player, so I don't really need to. This card has 7 levels and is slightly easier than Denial. It took me a similar amount of time, around 10 minutes.
GG.
Coming up next is Bargaining. Now this one introduces the most difficult enemy in the game, the fish, as well as, well, water. There's also these enemies that just move up and down and kinda remind me of muck. In total there is 6 screens. The fish are actually quite hard, and they just don't leave you alone. This one took me a little longer than the others, roughly around 20 minutes, being the hardest one so far for sure. The last of the 4 is Depression, and simultaneously the easiest, including 6 rooms. The only thing it has is these balloon blocks that move down when you step on them, and I made quick work of it and completed it in only around 5 minutes, while first trying half of the rooms. This now finally unlocked Acceptance, which meant I would have to complete everything I had done prior, but in a row, without dying, with an additional final world at the end of it all. Some rather dubious shenanigans, I must say so myself. Having previously done the last 4 carts, I knew the level layouts for the most part already, and didn't need to practice too much. Though a little bit of redoing bargaining certainly didn't hurt. Completing the entire run generally takes about 7 minutes, so there's a lot to memorize. Now at the time of me playing this game, I was also playing it alongside my good friend, Darius, which was pretty fun to do along with him. Him managing to complete it a month after me in January of 2019.
Look at techno. Oh yes, techno. I love me some techno.
Yes!
Yay!
Yay!
Despite Depression being the easiest of the first 4 carts, funnily enough, I actually had some trouble with passing it in Acceptance, and had raked up a few deaths in that segment, which were pretty rough. This was also ages ago, and I no longer have any of the footage of me actually playing it back in 2018, aside from the winning attempt, sadly. So these are only recreations and not the original footage. This was also during the era where I still had anger issues, and I clearly was very happy about any mistakes that I made during my attempts.
Good job!
After giving it attempts for close to an hour, I had a few good runs that made it to bargaining and depression, as well as several clumsy deaths to denial, and silly mistakes on anger all around. Mostly, I was just building up my consistency to reach the later carts, when I managed to finally make it to Acceptance, the last world of the cart. Having had no practice on these levels other than seeing them on a YouTube video, I didn't have any strategies, which was slightly problematic because specifically on 5-1, there is this one jump in which I attempted this, and died. This was my first death to Acceptance, and I was rather disappointed. Luckily, a couple of attempts later, I had a chance for redemption, passing the spike jumps in denial, aiding the enemies in anger, having accidentally merged the 2 fish during bargaining, giving myself a scare, and escaping from after. I was able to make it back to Acceptance for the 2nd time, this time employing a different strategy for the jump on 5-1. The rest of the stage has these moving ghosts, and the other being these ghosts that alternate on and off, killing while they look scary and being chill when they're, well, chill. Overall, Acceptance is of a similar difficulty to the previous cast and is only 5 screens long. The last screen having a final barrage of ghosts before you complete it makes for a very scary ending to the challenge. Very nervous, I made my way through the last world, all the way to the final room, with my brother Dom and Darius watching.
Yes!
Oh my god.
I beat it.
Thus, completing the final screen, I had achieved my Acceptance clear and was granted with my ultimate reward. A piece of paper in bold letters that says, fuck off. Well, that and a Steam achievement that only 1.6% of players own, plus a completion mark on my cart menu. Because who doesn't love achievements? Taking a look at my own description almost 5 years ago of this challenge, I had described it as the first challenging thing in this game. Taking me in total around an hour to complete. A difficult and long platforming challenge, but still nothing of the likes of what we will see in the future here. That brings us to the end of the video. The Endless Nigh is one of my favorite platformers, and it has more difficult achievements in the game that I will go over in a future video. This one ended up being a little short because the challenge is one of the easiest on the whole list, so there isn't a whole lot to say about my journey of trying to complete it, that journey being one sitting for an hour. But regardless, I hope you guys liked this video despite its short length. It was a little more experimental for me than what I do normally, so I would love to hear your thoughts about it, and a potential continuation of this series. Thank you for watching.